What is up? Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to part 3 of our series on business management and entrepreneurship. Now, because this is part 3, you want to make sure that you watch parts 1 and 2 to catch up on the introduction, to catch up on business information management, and of course, human resource management. Today, as you can see, we're picking up on operations management, and let's go ahead and get things started. All right, operations. Think about what the word operation sounds like, right? Now, if you're thinking, okay, well, Mr. C, when I go to the hospital, sometimes people have to have an operation or surgery. And you're absolutely right in that because there's a certain process that happens, right? Now, operations can basically mean how things happen, okay? In other words, a business has a goal, okay? Operations makes it happen. That's the physical work and the labor and the things and the plans that are set in motion itself. All right, so what are things that an operation manager needs to think about, or things that the entrepreneur might have to think about when they're wearing the hat of an operations manager? Well, their goal is to create the highest level of efficiency possible within the business. All right, the highest level of efficiency. Okay, what that basically means is they need to make things efficient as possible. Right, their primary concern is the conversion of materials and labor into goods and services as efficiently as possible. And this helps maximize the profit for a business. Now, profit is an awesome thing because profit is how businesses grow. You see, if the business didn't make money, okay, they couldn't grow. They couldn't bring on new people. They couldn't pay people their wages or salaries, right? So you got to be profitable if you're running a business, okay? Now, think about conversion of materials and goods, okay? Material and goods are the physical thing that people can hold, right? Example, this pen right here, right, is a good. Why? Because it is a physical item I can hold, I could touch, I could smell it. If I wanted to, I could lick it. Ew, right? Or I could do whatever else, right? It's a good, right? So there you go. Now, services are things that are done or performed. Example, if I were to bring on, okay, and hire a company to come and cut my grass at my house, right? I would be paying for the service. I'm not paying to buy the lawnmower, right? I am paying for the service of getting that grass cut. Or when we go get our hair cut, right? Mr. C doesn't do that too often because he does it at the house. But when you go get your hair cut, right? Or the ladies go to the beauty salon, right? They're paying for the service to make their hair as awesome as possible, trimmed, so on and so forth, okay? So you're concerned with converting process of goods and services to maximize profit. So it's got to be efficient, okay? I'll give you another example here. Being efficient. Look, if you're not using your materials properly, okay, you might be having waste. And we learned earlier on in the keyboarding unit, think about keyboarding, that efficiency is maximum productivity with limited waste or expense. Now, because of that, okay, operations will also oversee supply chain. We're going to talk about that, the manufacturing process, labor, and distribution. Let's move forward. All right, so operations managers are concerned with overseeing and controlling maybe the production of something, okay? Now, thinking about efficiency, if my company was in charge of making paper, okay, and I made a lot of paper in the factory, okay? If it took me one entire tree, okay, to make paper, maybe I need to rethink my process. One tree for one sheet isn't the best use of the materials and the goods, right? I need to make sure that I could stretch that material or that raw material out to make as many pieces of paper as I can. Or if I was in the recycling business and I recycled paper, right, to make more paper, which people do, you can get recycled paper, okay, I got to make sure that I'm using the least amount I can, okay, to make the best quality product I can. All right, so that involves designing and redesigning the production of something, okay? How does that process happen? What's involved in making the process happen? Now, if you're thinking, Mr. C, I know how paper is made. Well, that's great. What about blenders? Okay, you plug them into the wall, you blend up fruits and ice and make them all kind of into like these really cool shakes with peanut butter and such in them, right? Yeah, blenders. Blenders are awesome, right? There are a lot of raw components and raw materials involved with the blenders because you've got the cases, the buttons, the electronic components, the motors, you got the blades, you got the little cup thingy, right? You got the little dealie that screws on the top of it, with the blades on it that cycle it. Then you got to figure out how you can put the cup over it and keep the stuff from going everywhere and exploding on you, so on and so forth, right? What are all those components? Who's going to put them together? Okay. Who makes the products? All right. All of that is part of the raw materials. All right. You got to design how it's going to happen. Are they going to be made by hand? Are they going to be made by machine? Are certain components going to be made by machine and other parts made by hand? Right. That's something the operations manager needs to figure out. Okay. So you're converting inputs into outputs. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like we eat something, right? If we need food, we input it, right? And then the output is various levels of energy and, of course, waste, the stuff we don't use, right? So, yeah, input, okay? Now, that can include things such as raw material, okay? We just talked about raw material like plastic, okay, or paper, trees, or, maybe you're using tools to make the process happen, like in the case of lawnmowers or clippers or, various products to put in our hair to make it go bling. Okay, that kind of thing, all right? So you got raw materials, you got labor, which is the physical work done by people, okay? Are you going to have all machines do the entire process? Is that the way to go, okay? It depends on the company, okay? Compare two companies. Ford, really designed and helped innovate the assembly line, okay? And they use a lot of the machining process to make their vehicles. Ferrari, on the other hand, prides themselves in crafting a majority of the components. So everything is made by hand, almost everything except for certain components of the engine in a Ferrari, right? The business needs to figure that process out, okay? What's going to be made by hand, what's going to be made by machine, what's going to be put together by people, what's going to be put together by machine, that kind of thing, all right? And of course, you have output. What's the final product or what's the final service? All right, operations managers have the responsibility of ensuring that the operations of the business are efficient. We talked about that, right? Maximum productivity with limited waste or expense. You only want to use the resources as required, but you don't want to cheap out either, because if the stuff starts breaking when people receive them, you're not meeting customer requirements, okay? What would happen if I bought like 100 pens with my business name on them, right? And then 75% of them didn't click out or write when I started working with them? Yeah, I'm going to be unhappy, okay? So yeah, you got to meet customer requirements, especially if I'm looking for something inexpensive, okay? Obviously, you get what you pay for, but you got to make those decisions, like technology. You're going to buy the cheapest computers they have, or are you going to buy something that's mid-grade? If you're in the tow truck business, what kind of tow trucks are you going to get? Okay, where are you going to store the vehicles at? If you're in the mechanics business and you're a mechanic, what kind of tools are you going to buy? Okay, those are all things you've got to consider. Okay, so moving forward, yes, here are some various terms that are good to know about operations management, and you can actually study some of these sections in high school and start getting a feel for it. Example, logistics is the management of the flow of goods between the point of origin and the point of consumption. Okay, take these peanuts for instance, right? Can I just go to the garden and pick my peanut in the container, already salted and roasted out of the ground? Yeah, it would be nice, right? But it doesn't work that way, right? Somebody has to actually pick the peanuts out of the ground, or there has to be a machine that does that. Then it has to be sorted. Then you got to figure out the good peanuts from the bad peanuts, because sometimes when things are grown in the ground, things don't always turn out right? So you've got to manage the process between harvesting the peanut and getting it to the roaster. Then the roaster's got to figure, okay, now that it's here, do we need to shuck the shells? Do we need to roast them? How are we going to make that process happen? It's better to do big batches, better to do a small batch. How are we going to make that happen? How much salt are we going to need, right? How are we going to get the salt on there? How are we going to get the salt from point A to come here to the facility, okay? All of that is a logistics process. That involves shipping, carrying, receiving, so on and so forth, all right? Again, you can study that more in high school if you'd like to, if you really want to get deep into it. Now, the supply chain is the sequence or process involved in the production or distribution of a commodity. Okay, a commodity is something that people can buy. Okay, so in the case of the peanuts, right, there's two different supply chains involved there. Okay, you got the supply chain to the manufacturer, and you got the supply chain from the manufacturer out to the stores. Okay, and so where does it go? What are some things to consider? Okay, that's the supply chain. Then you have distribution, the process of making the product available or the service available for use. All right. So if something is bought on, say, Amazon, okay, well, Amazon's a great place to get stuff, right? But how does it get to Amazon? Okay. How does Amazon ship to you? Okay. Does it come by mail? Does it come by UPS? If you're close enough to an Amazon distribution center, are they going to deliver it straight to you with an Amazon truck? All right. That's the distribution process. Now, what about Walmart? How does stuff get to Walmart? How do the foods get to Walmart? Okay. Do the foods need to be in a refrigerated truck? Okay. For frozen foods, does that refrigerated truck need to be at a temperature below 32 degrees or slightly above 32 degrees? Okay. Especially with fruits and veggies. You don't want your veggies to get frozen because they'll sit and rot in a bag as they begin to thaw. That's an important thing, right? So that distribution can either be direct or indirect. What direct means is it comes straight from the manufacturer. Okay. Indirect means it goes to the store or a warehouse before it comes to you. Here's what I mean by that. I don't have the bag with me right here, but one of my favorite coffee companies is Death Wish Coffee. And Death Wish is a independent company, and they pride themselves on high quality, small batch coffee beans, and they taste really, really good in my opinion, right? Now, initially, before they became really mainstream, okay, the only way to buy Death Wish coffee was straight from Death Wish themselves. In fact, that's how I had my first cup, was it came straight from the manufacturer. And over the years, they become so popular that they started not only being sold through Amazon, okay, so then they became indirect, but you could also buy their product through Publix and other select markets, right? So you can either buy it directly from Death Wish and have it sent to your home, or you can go to the store and buy it. So coming straight from Death Wish, right, is direct. Going to the store and buy it is indirect because there's an intermediary between there, okay? Scheduling is a part of logistics that considers routing, timing, queues, due dates, and slack times. What? Well, yeah, just what I just said, right? Okay, scheduling. It's important that things are on a schedule, right? Think about cow juice. I mean, milk, right? Moo juice, cow, right? Juice from the cow, okay? Milk. All right, anyway, think about that, right? You don't want the milk sitting too long before it gets on the shelf, okay? Because it'll spoil. Even with the pasteurization process, you got to make sure that as much product can go to the shelf as possible, okay? Same thing with fruits and veggies. You don't want those fruits and veggies to rot on you, okay? So they've got to be sent out, okay? So, you got to consider scheduling, timing, so on and so forth. How long is it going to sit there? Okay, how long can it sit there? All right. A box of Clorox cleaners can sit a whole lot longer on the shelf than, say, fresh bananas. Okay. So scheduling has to take that into consideration. Again, all part of the logistics process, the shipping process, and controlling the flow of goods between the point of origin and the point of consumption. All right. Yes. Safety, risk, and management. One of my favorite sections to talk about. Now, with any business, there are safety concerns, okay? I don't care if you're working at McDonald's. I don't care if you're working at a mechanic, okay? I don't care if you're mowing somebody's grass, okay? If the goal of operations management is to create the highest level of efficiency possible in a business, safety and risk and maintenance need to be key concerns. Plain and simple, right? If somebody gets into their vehicle, right, they are trusting that the vehicle is going to operate safely. Okay, they're hoping. They're not going down, oh, I hope my wheel doesn't fall off. I hope my wheel doesn't fall off. I hope my wheel doesn't fall off, right? That would be bad. They trust that that vehicle is going to operate in safe condition. Now, in order for that vehicle to operate in safe condition, a certain amount of maintenance needs to be performed, okay? So you need to check, hey, if that wheel starts shaking on you, right, you need to stop and check to see what's going on and maybe even prevent the problem even before it starts shaking. You got to do regular maintenance, like change the oil and make sure fresh gas is always in the vehicle, right? You've got to perform these basic checks, okay? Same thing if you're in a place of business, or if you're in a warehouse, you got to make sure that the forklift is in operation, that the storage shelves aren't rusty and risking falling over. We have a company that hires a lot of workers here in Lake City. They work on aircraft and aircraft maintenance. So the aircraft companies like United and Delta and such send their planes in so that they could be serviced, right? Because it would be really bad for a plane to be in the air and something to happen to it, right? So, safety, risk, and maintenance are important. So let's define safety real quick. Safety is the reduction of risk to a level that is low as reasonably practicable. Practicable? That means within reason, okay? In other words, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Maintenance, the care and servicing for the purpose of maintaining equipment in facilities in satisfactory operating condition. All right, so here's what those mean in English, all right? Safety. Would it be more reasonable if people were slipping on the floor of a kitchen at a restaurant? Would it be more reasonable to install a big, complex tether system? Okay, tether system means there's like a whole bunch of chains and a whole bunch of straps that come down, and people have to wear safety vests, and they're attached to the safety vest so that if they fall, the safety vest can catch them, right, as they're falling. Is that more reasonable, or would it be more reasonable to make sure that the kitchen has non-skid surfaces and is constantly mopped, right? Right. So mopping non-skid floors, right? That is a level that is low as reasonably practicable, right? It's unpractical to put tethers and chains and lanyard systems inside of the kitchen of a restaurant and make everybody wear safety vests that are attached to these things. That would be ridiculous, okay? So you got to make sure things are reasonably practicable, okay? And then you got maintenance. We just talked about that earlier with the forklifts and the planes and the automobiles, right? You got to make sure the items are serviced and in good operating condition. That's what operations manager needs to think about, right? Or, think about Chick-fil-A. You got to make sure that when somebody fries the chicken or the French fries or anything else, right, that the grease isn't spattering out and dripping on the floor and going out and creating puddles and so on and so forth. Yeah, that would be a bad thing to happen, right? So yeah, safety and maintenance, really important part of operating a business. All right, so let's look at a couple of different careers dealing with operations management. Now, if you're looking at controlling the production process and developing the production process, yeah, you're going to need to have at least a technical degree, okay, a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree, okay, so that means some college or like a 2-year university or a technical school. Bachelor's degree means you're spending some time at a 4-year university, okay, and then advanced degree means like master's or doctorate's degree, okay, and you can kind of see those things there like industrial engineering technicians, industrial production managers, mechanical engineering technicians, material engineers, blah, 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 blah. You can read all that here, right? And I encourage you, if this sounds really interesting to you, like manufacturing and process development, Google some of those jobs, okay, and see what they entail, okay? And you might find some really good information there. As far as logistics and inventory control, here's the great thing here, right? You don't need to have a college diploma to work in logistics and inventory control. Okay, Mr. C had one of his first jobs at the age of 18 in logistics and inventory control. I worked in a warehouse for a store, okay? And that means I was unloading trucks, right? I was unloading freight. Okay, I was loading freight, I was putting stuff into customer vehicles, I was making sure everything was accounted for and inventoried, so on and so forth. I was making sure that everything that was stocked was in good condition, so on and so forth. So that might include things, if with a high school diploma or GED, right? Shipping and receiving traffic clerk, hand pickers and stock packagers, they're going out and picking the actual stock and putting it into the envelopes or delivering it to the customer or sending out for shipping, right? You got stock laborers, right? If you got like some technical experience and maybe a technical degree, you can look at planning and expediting and production. And then when you're looking at technical degrees like 2-year technical schools or associate's degrees, you can look at purchasing agents and loss prevention. You get the bachelor's and you get into cost estimating and purchasing managers and so on and so forth. And then, of course, when you're looking at warehouse and distribution centers, again, a lot of those same jobs kind of carry over. But then you're looking at like storage and distribution and other things such as that. All right. And of course, maintenance and operations, because that's important, right? The maintenance of a facility is important, especially when you're talking about like natural gas or fuel or petroleum byproducts or refineries, so on and so forth. Highway maintenance, right? That's a great thing to think about, right? You're maintaining the highway so that things can be sent and people can travel in a semi-safe condition, right? You've got mechanical door repairs, right? Garage door repair. People need to make sure their garage doors are always working, right? Or their facilities or their lifts or the elevators and things like that, right? And then you can kind of see the other jobs kind of sprinkled in here on the screen itself, okay? So that brings me to the end of this particular section. And hopefully you kind of get a better grasp for what entrepreneurs need to think about in the lens of operation managers. And go ahead and answer those questions. This is part 3. And yeah, we'll carry on to our next section, which we will dive into accounting and finance. That's a great topic to talk about.